Welcome back everybody to another video here with Chris, and today we're going to be going over the updated list for the cooler deck that did get some dash pack support. So as always, make sure you guys like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications just so you guys can keep up with the content as well as supporting the channel, which I do always appreciate. As the release of this video, there should be some more updated Patreon content. I'm gonna, now that I am out of the busy season, I'm gonna be able to dive back into content creation a little bit more. So I'm going to try my hand with doing some more Patreon stuff. I'm probably going to end up doing a lot of competitive breakdown stuff through Patreon, as well as anything that I'm currently playing, updates to those lists, things like that. Possibly some extra stuff in the future. We'll kind of, cross that bridge once we get there. So the cooler deck did receive some dash pack support. Probably some of the most dash pack support, honestly. Probably some of the best cards. Actually, we're going to fit directly into this cooler deck. And they did get 3 particular cards. So they got two main deckable cards, and one of them is in the Z deck. So we have the King Cold, leader of the Frieza clan. This is a 20k unique barrier blocker. It's reduced for every green card, every green Unison card in your drop area. It can go down to a 1 cost. And if your leader is the Frieza clan, at the end of the turn, or when this card activates a blocker skill, switch this card to active mode. And when this card activates the blocker skill, you get to combo with a 5k mono green card from your drop with its skills negated. This is incredibly powerful. So for multiple reasons. One, this allows you to have a 20k battle card that can just swing into stuff and restand. 2, it's a double blocker, and it's a 25k blocker. It's also a 25k blocker that generates potentially 2 Z energy per turn on defense, which makes this deck really scary, honestly, as this deck continues to, I would say, gain power. This type of card here is going to be insane, and really the cooler deck does the Unison stuff the best, so it's kind of like a no-brainer. It's like that's the deck that you're going to end up playing this card in. The Unison is the Cooler Cruel Commander. So this is a 1-drop 5k, power 3. If this card is played with 3 markers on it, you get to add 1 green card from your drop to your Z energy, and then this card gains dual attack for the turn. Then you can also plus it, which is an activate main for burst 1. It gets 10k for the turn, so making this a 15k dual attacker. Again, incredibly powerful. This card gives you a lot of value. So for 1, this card also generates a Z energy, and then also is a 15k dual attacker, and that's really good for 1 energy. For whatever, this card is very, very powerful. I think the combination of these 2 cards make Cooler probably the best green deck in the game currently. Maybe Cell's very close. But this deck this is already just a lot more support than a lot of decks see, and even tournament promos. Realistically, these 2 cards are incredibly playable, as opposed to some of the other cards that come out like in the TP packs where they're just not playable, or they're just support for really bad decks that don't end up having any form of good support. So and then we have Golden Frieza, Return of the Destroyer. Then this is a Z battle card, 2 cost, 4 Z energy requirement. It's a 20k deflect double strike. For each Unison, green Unison in your drop, you reduce the Z cost of this card in your Z deck by 1 up to 2. So essentially this can be a 2-drop 2 Z energy requirement. Auto, if it's your turn, when your green Unison is placed in your drop, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, KO it, and this card gets 5k for the turn. Activate main, if your leader is a green Frieza clan, you have 4 or more energy. Play up to 1 green Unison with a specific cost of 3 or less from your hand with a marker on it. So there's a lot here. This is obviously just almost direct cooler support and nothing but cooler support. Now, other green decks can run things like this. Any Frieza clan green deck can run this card, but naturally you're probably going to be playing this in cooler only. So the first thing is, whenever you pop one of your Unisons, this could be from your effect or just replacing the card. You do get the draw off of the leader, but then also you get to now kill something, ignoring barrier, and then make this a 25k double strike. That's very good. It's very, very good. Thankfully, this card does not have barrier. So that is kind of good. So at least it could be removed by things like Boo Unison and things like that. But this card is very, very good. And on top of that, if your leader is a green Frieza and you have 4 more energy, you get to tap 2 and you get to play the 3-drop Golden Frieza from your hand with a marker on it. Now the 1 marker thing is kind of meh, but it's still just incredibly powerful, just being able to play that gigantic card on your board, which that's, like I said, again, just a lot of value here. So those are the 3 cards. I am going to go over a quick list so you guys can see what an updated list could possibly look like. Obviously not going to be tons of changes to what the deck actually is currently running, but at least what you guys can see what maybe ratios and stuff would look like with the new deck. Alright guys, so here is the cooler list. We're just going to go over each card individually. Just a quick rundown just so you guys can see what the ratios and could potentially look like for the deck. So we have our Unison lineup here. These are kind of the main cards here that most cooler decks will end up playing. As you can see, 3 of the 1-drop cooler, 2 of the 4-drop cooler. This 4-drop cooler is reduced by 1 for every Unison in your drop. Makes your opponent drop a card, as well as get to shuffle in a Unison back into your deck. It's a good card. Potentially might go up now with no God Sealing available, but it is it's at 2 currently here. We have Niaz, Dory, I think it's Dory, and then Salza. So these are your cooler army squadron. These are generally the typical 1-drops that you were going to be playing in the deck. You can see here we drop down Salza and Niaz to 3. This card could probably end up going down to 2, depending on how you play test. Salza is a form of charismatic villain. This card here, Dory, grabs the cooler from your deck. And then Niaz is a negate that also stops something else from attacking. All of these have the Empower effect, and these are all kind of what you flow through when you're going through the deck and playing stuff. You have the 1-drop Frieza, which is a 10k, but this card forces your opponent to drop a card if it is played, and it reaches the requirement of having 3 markers when it is played. And then you have the Golden Frieza Newfound Might. This is a 20k dual attack blocker. If it comes in with 4 more markers, it kills the entire board. You can -4 and give this card 10k and triple strike for the turn, and switches to active mode at the end. This is kind of your boss monster of the deck, and this is sort of what the deck is generally formed around, is a variation of these cards here. Now we have 4 charismatic villain. This is pretty standard. Green players, I would get as much play in with charismatic villain right now as possible, because by the time March and April rolls around, this card will probably be gone. Whether it's limit 1 or just completely just erased from the game. I just have a good feeling about this, just because they're trying to remove a lot of the Unison free plays to support and sell product for the Z deck stuff. So there's a good chance this card's going to be gone. So get your play in while you have it. We have 3 dormant potentials. This is pretty standard for most green lists. This is when you play, you pitch a card, opponent gets 2 more attacks or 1 more attack for the turn after that initial attack. 2 Fuse Zamasu with I'll say red taking a back seat, but red is definitely not going to be as popular. I think blue is going to kind of sort of dominate at least most of the meta going into set 20. But green obviously has a very good matchup against blue, and you want to main deck Fuse Zamasu because of that. You pop your Frieza, now you have a 20k indestructible on board that's going to make your opponent pitch a card every time this card attacks. So obviously very good value there. 3 Goku Faded Rivals. This card is insane. This is the new 2-drop green staple that everyone should be playing in any green deck. Pop something ignoring Barrier. You get to bottom deck a Earthling or a Saiyan or a Namekian from your Z energy, which we do run a super combo that is Saiyan. This is Defending Father Paragus. Doesn't need much explanation after that. This is the best super combo in the game for green. 1 Dark Broly Overwhelm, just because you have to have an Overwhelm. It kind of feels silly to not run Dark Broly as your Overwhelm, just being able to spot remove and then having a 30k body. 3 Homicidal Clones, because we have to have token negates. 1 Further Construction Champa. This goes on your leader. This goes on your Dark Broly. Different ways to be able to end the game. Then we have the 3 cooler. This is the new cooler Unison we just talked about. We have 3 of this, and then we have 3 of the King Cold. Kind of bounce back and forth between these. They're both very good. Cooler probably doesn't need to be at a 4 of, just because it doesn't necessarily. I don't think it gives you as much value as something like Dory here, which is probably the best one in the deck. because it's going to necessarily draw you a card almost every turn, every time that's played. A Cooler is probably maybe the second best one drop in the deck for Unison wise, maybe the third, because Frieza is pretty powerful, so probably Frieza and Cooler are kind of the competition here. And King Cold we don't run 4 of because it's unique, and we can't play more than one of them on the board at the same time, so 3 probably is the minimum. 4 would be the max, obviously, but I think 3 is probably a good place for this card. We have 2 Piccolo Jr. in the main deck, and as you see in this main deck, I don't have the Gohan. As good as Gohan is, I think Gohan is very, very situational. It's more than likely going to be a side deck card for most green decks. It just doesn't seem as impactful to run it unless you're playing against just nothing but blue. I think Piccolo is slightly better. Piccolo, obviously, if you guys don't know, if you have Goku in play, the Fated Rival, you play it for 1. For every Z energy, it knocks a marker off of a card. So right there, you're basically doing what the Gohan does. Now, the other part about this, which is nice, is every time this card swings, your opponent drops a card. So just a little more hand destruction in there, and this going along with the Fusamasu is very difficult for a lot of green decks, for any deck to get around. And if you were playing the Xenocell, you can go directly into Xenocell with these two. But we're not running Xenocell. I have the Majin Buu counter. Cell Max, incredibly good secret rare. Probably what most people are going to end up playing in this deck. However, you will run into times where you might not be able to kill your opponent because of a particular type of floodgate. Let's say you already have game on board and they hit you with a floodgate, and having something like this where you can just counter it is very good. Also, it's good into blue matchups because blue does have a weird chance of actually beating green using something like Golden Ape or even yellow being able to Cooler counter. So I believe, does this negate the counter? No, I'm sorry, it doesn't do that. No, never mind. I was gonna say something because it's a counter, but it only stops the counter attack skill. So never mind. I was gonna say something that I've actually probably shouldn't have said, so it's fine. But yeah, so you can stop floodgates. Your opponent goes a token negate. You can just hit him with this, and then you just push for game. And it is a 40k double strike, so you can also use this to end the game. I think it's a very good card. But Cell Max is very good too. Invader's Vow is another good card that you can possibly run. There are a lot of good options for green. Green has a lot of very decent secret rares. Just kind of whatever one kind of fits your fancy the most. Z deck, we have 2 Jiren the Unmovable. Make sure you guys give this card the auto effect. You don't want to miss this effect. It's very important. Bottom effect, you discard Z energy. And for every Z energy, you knock a marker off your opponent's Unison. If you take 2 or more off, this card gets 10k in double strike for the turn. Very powerful way to end the game. We have 2 Frieza Resurrected Ambition. Used to be the only green Z battle card, and now it's probably the worst out of the Z battle cards. But it's still something that you should play. Still very powerful. You swing at the green battle card, you pop a Z energy, they pitch a card from their hands. You can tag this with Piccolo Jr. or Fusamasu, and they're basically going to be pitching 2 cards off of 1 swing. 1 Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. This is just help Self-Awaken. And then we have 2 Golden Frieza Return of the Destroyer. This can potentially go up to 3. Just really depends on what you see fit, but at least 2. I wouldn't go any lower than 2. So this is a potential list for what the cooler stuff could look like. I'm sure now as we get into, before we get to set 20 reveals, this deck is probably going to change quite a bit, especially if they release some form of ban list or anything else like that beforehand. But this is just a potential of what it could look like. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, make sure you guys like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Thank you guys for all the support, and I will see you guys in the next video.